We have some competitors that have been there for a while that unfortunately haven't been able to use the really new technologies, at least not yet, while we have been created Sonar on those technologies. So we see there's a gap as well in that aspect of having AI within your tool to be quicker, faster, and more.
Welcome to the first series of the Off Menu IT podcast. I am your host, Sean Ashbury, and in this episode, we are focused on Sonar Clarity's SaaS management solution, which is one of 9 episodes that you can enjoy this season. This episode was recorded on the 18th of October, and some of the proposed announcements may have already been released. This podcast is fully independent and does not accept payments from its guests. The mission is to help the ITAM community make better decisions through their own discovery. Let this maximize your IT budgets and improve your RFP process. In this episode, we have Tanguy Duthion, who is the co-founder and current CEO of Sonar Clarity. And I hope you enjoyed my French accent. All right, so here we are on the Off Menu podcast with Tanguy, the co-founder and CEO of Sonar Clarity, an AI-led SaaS management startup, a French company which is starting to spread its wings internationally with some fantastic projects and partnerships, which I'm sure Tanguy will be happy to introduce. An interesting fact of conversations is that this guy was a French national beach volleyball champion until under 21s. At that point, he decided to go chase big tech for 15 years and has been working across some of the bigger names all across the world before co-founding Sonar Clarity. So welcome, Tanguy. How are you doing?
Thanks a lot. Very happy to be here. Hopefully, as you said, I'm French, so you'll probably hear my accent. So I'll do my best, obviously, to be understandable.
Hey, it works both ways with my Bristolian accent as well. Apologies to the listeners. First question then, who is Sonar Clarity and what is your product and service?
All right. So yeah, let's jump into it straight away. Thanks a lot again for having me today. So Sonar Clarity is, as you explained it quite well, is a SaaS management platform with a lot of AI behind it. Basically, the idea of the company is to help companies manage their SaaS. It's as simple as that. Managing the SaaS, what does it mean? It's basically within the platform having, in a few clicks, visibility over all the SaaS, all the softwares being used by all employees, right? So you will see everything. You will see all the apps, all the users, and obviously the usage of those apps by those users. So you can ask like, so what? And basically the so what is, if you can see everything, it means you can see the shadow IT part. So you can see a lot of security problems, not only shadow IT. I think we'll talk about that later. But also kind of the budget problems, rationalization of unused apps and many other things. So that's basically what we do, helping companies make data-driven decisions based on what we were able to show them.
Perfect. And what drew you to SaaS management?
So I've discovered SaaS management not long ago, to be honest. As you explained, I've been in tech for a while, American tech companies mostly. So I've been working as a consultant for Google for a while, then working in a SaaS company called Asana to drive the channel program globally first, but then in EMEA. And I've seen a lot of different things. I've seen in Google marketing teams using tens of products and not even knowing they have licenses to those products. And then when working with Asana, I've seen a lot of shadow IT, obviously, of customers. And then I've seen customers buying a few hundreds of licenses and just using like 20 or 30% of it. So I thought like, what a waste is it? Then I've launched my consulting firm, which was basically helping companies kind of find the right SaaS on the market based on the problems you have internally. And all of those customers we had, basically they told me, before buying a new tool, I'd love to know what people are using within my company. I'd love to see basically if they're using it, anything free, potentially anything they have paid as well. So that's why the inventory and cartography idea came. And starting with that, I've been doing around 400 interviews of CIOs, procurement, finance, like a lot of different people, CISOs, obviously talking about security. And all of those, they told me, you should definitely talk with our software manager. And I was like, what's a software asset manager? So I've talked with like hundreds of them. out of the 400, there's probably 150 software asset managers or ITAM consultants. And that's basically when I discovered it. And I was like, that's exactly what you do on a day-to-day basis. That's it looks like it's part of your scope. So that's a long story to say I've discovered it at the beginning of Sonar Clarity, not before. And it was interesting because the first conversation I had with the software asset manager, it was with some of the biggest companies in France, and they were really, really focused on the big softwares, like those, like kind of the Pareto law, right? The 20% softwares that are taking 80% of the budget. But it looks like there's a shift now to cloud with all the softwares, and part of the scope is SaaS management now. They need to take a look at that 20% budget that is the 80 other percent of softwares, because it's growing and growing. It creates security problems, compliance, lot of problems basically. So it looks like there's a shift in the role of software asset manager as well, coming from that managing of one or two or three particular software to actually managing the full scope, even the long tail.
Was that through those conversations? Obviously, that is when you found that you had a valuable offering in the market to provide with their request or their pain points around SaaS.
Yeah, that's right. So during the discussions, the idea of those discussions, right, was actually to design the product as well. Obviously, we've had our own idea within the company of how we want to do things. We were going into one particular direction at first, but having a lot of feedbacks from many different people. As I said, talking with CIOs, with CISOs from many different sizes of companies as well, right? It could be a 200 employees or sometimes also an 80,000 employees. So it really, really, really depends. And yeah, the feedbacks were actually really good to be able to provide value, because obviously we were thinking, I'm kind of the creative one within the team. So I have a lot of ideas, and basically the team is here to canalize myself and canalize me and say, yeah, let's go into one particular direction. So all the feedback were great to be sure we're actually building something that will drive value, basically.
Perfect. So you've got the strategical level of the C level, but also you've got those on the boots on the ground and what they want and how they want to use it. So yeah, fantastic. And what was the first breakthrough success for Sonar Clarity?
I think there's several of those, because obviously you're at the beginning, you're kind of testing and iterating. So you're having some dark part and some lights that are like, yes, that's exactly where we need to go. But I think there has been one moment when we saw that the extension we have built is a really, really asset in terms of technology. We've not built the extension only to track the usage, because that's kind of the idea of an extension at first. It's kind of one source of data you will use to actually see what employees are doing on a day-to-day basis with those apps. First, we implemented a security piece, which was, okay, we're not checking everything. We're not going to see all the URLs. It's privacy first. We're only checking the apps. We have our own database that we're matching the URL with. So if you're going on Facebook, WhatsApp, or whatever, it's not a SaaS. We're not going to check that, right? That's the first important part. I think that resonated great with the customers. And then second part, we saw that this extension has so much power. I've been dreaming of launching many extensions when I was young, and it was kind of reality becoming real. Basically, using this extension that is here, the employee could say, yeah, it's just here to track what I'm doing, right? Now it's actually here to provide value to the customer. IT can communicate through that. Basically, during the 400 interviews, we've seen that there's a big silo between IT teams and the business teams, right? And this extension will be in the middle of it, being able to say to employees, you're on the wrong application. Here's the link to the approved one, right? Or careful, you're uploading data into WeTransfer, and that's a security breach. Or I don't know, this is not an approved app. Or you're on ChatGPT, be careful with the data you're actually uploading on it. So here's the informatical chat that you can look at, and those kind of. And also the big ones. I think it was one of the biggest appreciated feedback we have from many, many people. It's called sentiment analysis, and we're basically using the extension to get the feedback from employees on the softwares they're using on a day-to-day basis in terms of criticity and in terms of sentiment.
Is it a prompt that they have to read before they could even engage and start working on ChatGPT, for example?
No, of course not, because that would be very annoying.
Okay. Yeah.
To be honest, yes, security is really important, but it has to be done the proper way. If you're blocking people from doing things, I think it's not the right way.
That is someone who is managing and watching, then able to speak to that person directly and educate them, just as a software asset manager typically does with processes to make sure they follow it, stuff like that. Then
Yeah, I can give you kind of an idea of a specific process, right? Let's say you're a software asset manager for a huge company. You're in charge of renegotiating a contract in 6 months with, let's say Asana, because I know the tool perfectly, right? You're pushing one button and boom, basically every users of Asana on the second connection of the day, because we don't want to disturb the workflow. The first connection of the day might be very, very busy, right? The second one, you're already on the platform, so you know exactly what you're doing. So you have time to read the pop-up. So there's a pop-up that will appear through the extension saying, hey, can you actually note in terms of criticity and sentiment out from 0 to 10, basically on Asana. Boom, 2 clicks, data is going into the platform. We know exactly who's that person, marketing team, the department, potentially a subsidiary. And then the software asset manager will have the quantitative data saying, okay, I can see that the marketing team is loving it in terms of criticity. In terms of sentiment, it's a bit down. It's a bit average, I would say, in terms of sentiment. But I see the engineering team is hating it, and potentially we need to discuss with them. Maybe they need Jira instead of they need more training on the tool, right? So that's the kind of insights. And regarding the security, you just have to put the workflows in place. And if you say within your own catalog, because obviously we can see all your apps, right? So you can say it's approved, it's not approved by IT. Let's say, ChatGPT is not approved and Copilot internally is approved. When people will go on ChatGPT, the pop-up will appear saying, hey, careful, you're not on an approved app. Here's the approved one. Just click here and you'll go to Copilot straight away. If you still want to use ChatGPT, you're still able to, right? But we'll see the usage. So IT can then take the appropriate measures.
Is there anyone else in the market that has a similar, or is that something that you developed quite innovative to and unique to Sonar Clarity?
I think it's quite unique to the power of it. There has been very recently, we've seen actually some companies approaching from this. I think there's a shift again in the market, and people are trying to get more value out of the technology they install on their computer as well, and same for IT. So yeah, we've seen some companies really approaching to it. I'm not going to name those companies, but yeah, some of those. But yeah, I think it's quite unique still. There's some, as like one example I can say as well, WeTransfer is big, right? You know, it's a huge security risk for most companies, and IT directors, they're looking at the usage of WeTransfer by the employees because it could be a huge breach of data. But the thing is, they tend to put it on the blacklist, right? But if it's on blacklist, it means that your employees can't receive things from WeTransfer as well, from, their customers or whatever. So it's a big problem. We are able to know if you're receiving or if you're sending something, if you're uploading data out to someone else. We're actually able to do that. So that's the kind of small things that we keep basically the distance with the others.
I appreciate a lot of what the conversation has kind of steered to, the security risks, as well as kind of SaaS management. So what is the core focus of your product, or the many?
Yeah, there's two. I would say there's two. If I have to make two different things, so that's why our own offer has been separated in two different things. On one side, there's the security, and on the other side, there's the budget. That's as simple as that. On the security, we're looking at the shadow IT. We're looking at, employees sharing their credentials. We're looking at breach of data, potential breach of data risks, security risk, like, okay, you've been connecting to SSO to one particular app that is very risky, common vulnerabilities, exposure, those kind of things. All right, that's on the first part. On the second part, the budget, we're going to be seeing how much you're paying for a tool, how much you're supposed to pay for that tool, when's the renewal date, how many licenses did you buy, how many licenses did you use, et cetera, et cetera. And basically based on those data and the usage and everything else, we're able to tell you either, yeah, that's a duplicate of that one, so careful, you might actually delete that contract, or you can negotiate a 30% decrease on the number of licenses and therefore in the final budget, those kind of topics. So two big topics, security and budget.
Okay, brilliant. I mean, 30% reduction, instant return on investment, that isn't it? So how has the customer feedback kind of shaped the product roadmap and influenced your service offering based off some of the wins that you've had?
So the 30% actually came from something recently quite recently, I would say, but had a really, really intensive win, really impressive because it was super fast. Basically, in 2 weeks, we were able to have a recommendation of decreasing by 3 million. So they were able to save $3 million. Obviously, it takes time to implement. So they haven't saved it in 2 weeks, all right? But they have the plan. In 2 weeks, they had the plan to actually be able to save $3 million on just one software, okay? So it's very powerful. The ROI is just crazy. So one customer will potentially save 3 million just on their Salesforce contract. That's
Fantastic.
it. Yeah. When you think about it, the ROI is quite huge, right? So that's why we have a deep dive as well on some particular software. SaaS management is quite large, right? You need to look at the long tail, so all the softwares on the planet. But there's some big ones on the cloud that we're able to actually deep dive very, very precisely as well. At the moment, we're focusing on Salesforce and Dynamics because we see we can provide a lot of value, and the ROI is as I just explained, quite huge. So that's kind of the two different things, we're doing as well. It's kind of an add-on, right? You're checking out all the softwares, but you say Salesforce looks like there's no big use. Let's take a look at that. And we're going to be much, much deeper looking at the usage of each feature of each product of Salesforce, and then telling you based on specific teams if this person is using it great or using it, not enough, etc., etc. And if that person has the right license, obviously.
You mentioned when we had a conversation before the podcast off air was how you've got some fantastic partnerships for these services and vendors that you focused on. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure listeners would love to hear that you have that validation.
100%. More than a validation, it's a really, really good help. I'll explain why. Basically, when we started doing those 400 interviews I've talked about, one of the main feedback I had was, even if you're providing me with the best recommendation and the best data, I will still need kind of a trusted advisor to help me take the decision, because it's big decisions first, and then guide me through. So basically, decision would be building the roadmap and then guiding me through the whole roadmap. I'll give you an example. For this particular Salesforce case, we've been working with an amazing company called Ele in France. And as I said, the recommendation in 2 weeks is about 3 million, right? It's great, but then you need to actually go and negotiate that 3 million decrease. So change the licenses, change what people have in terms of access, etc., etc. The partner will do that. The partner will actually, from there, it's their starting point, saying, okay, we will help you kind of reorganize everything and then renegotiate the contract. And they will really help you, like writing emails for you and coaching and everything like that. So yes, we're really, really hard on partners. We have great partners. We're actually working with partners in the UK as well, talking with companies, obviously, like SCC, Livingstone as well, that is doing great in terms of renegotiating contracts. So that's the kind of partnership we love, like a lot of trust. EasySum, obviously, is one of them. Kind of smaller, but really, really focused on SAM. So we love having different types of partners working on different types of industries with different backgrounds. So basically, depending on the customer can choose how they want to be guided. And it's really, really important for us to work with partners, 100%.
If an enterprise didn't want to use a partner?
So it's still possible, obviously, but we don't recommend it, to be honest. It's not because the tool is complex, right? It takes 20 minutes to implement to get your full Shadow IT. So it's really, really easy. Then you will see all the users, all the applications and everything. It's more on the so what? Basically, you get the data. It's just like, having an Apple Watch, watching your data about your sleep. And then you're saying like, yeah, I haven't slept well. What do you do with it? What do you do with that insight? What do you transform it into value, right? What do you need to change in order to sleep better? That's exactly the same thing. We're going to be giving you data and recommendations that are very, very precise, But then there's a lot of work after that to drive your roadmap. So if you have people internally that are really good at transforming insights into value, obviously you can do it yourself. And with smaller companies, they're in general doing it themselves because it's quite easy also for them. There's less data, less problems, less security problems, less budget optimizations, etc. But for the enterprise accounts, as you mentioned, I haven't had the case. In general, they're working already with partners anyway.
Okay, understood.
And it makes a lot of sense, to be honest, to work with partners. Like I've seen also for us as a company, right? I'm a SaaS, so I want my tool to provide value. And just think about another tool like Asana, okay? It's a productivity tool. If you're just giving it into the hands of people, they're going to be using it, potentially stop using it and just use the basics of it. They, at the end, will see the value a bit, but compared to the price they're going to be paying, they're going to be like, doesn't make sense, right? But if there's a partner on it that will train them, that will show them the tricks, that will give them feedback on what they're doing, then they're going to be like, yeah, this is the best tool I've ever used, right? That's exactly what we want to build. And that's why we want to provide value by having partners.
Excellent. It seems like you are positioning yourself very well with some very strong partners there. So great to hear. And so I guess on to the kind of strengths and innovations of your product. What does your solution do well, and how does it excel compared to others?
Yeah, we're doing a lot of evangelization around it. I think, as I said at the beginning, it looks like we're the topic has been there for a while, right? SaaS management has been there for a while. We haven't invented the category. Really not. We've been joining that category, but we're doing a lot of evangelization still. It looks like the category has been struggling a bit, but now it feels since COVID that there's been a boom around it because people have been, the SaaS sprawl, people have been using more and more and more SaaS. So it creates big problems. I think 85% of big companies are having cyber attack as well. So they're more and more focused on the cyber security and looking at those possible breach of data and risks has been a focus. So even though it's a focus now and we're entering quite strong the category, as you said, there's still evangelization to do. I don't think we're leading the category. There's tools everywhere on the planet that are kind of in the category of SaaS management, but there's different tools that are doing SaaS management. Some are really focusing on security only. Some are focusing on renegotiating your contracts. We're basically, what we're trying to do is having the best data possible so you can put your finger on something that might be wrong. And then we believe you and a partner are the best to solve that problem. So we're not going to be renegotiating your contracts because you know everything. So you're probably better than us than that to do that, right? On the security aspect, we're not a cybersecurity company, so we need to be light in terms of data we're going to get. So that's why the source of data we have are not intrusive at all compared to something like putting an agent on all desktops and checking all the proxies and everything, right? We're not doing this. So we have to be in the middle. That's at least what we're trying to do.
If you're enjoying listening to this episode, please show your support and take this short break to like and subscribe to this series and beyond. One more thing, if you know someone who could benefit from this episode, share the love and share this episode. Thank you.
It's actually strange that although a good software asset manager will understand the requirement to focus on security, it's not necessarily written in job adverts, and so it's quite refreshing to hear that obviously this is underpinning your solution. You're very much addressing the challenges.
I think the role is evolving a lot. As I said, there's the scope of the software asset manager is really enlarging, if I can say, and that's why SaaS management is coming into the scope. And in terms of cross-functional working into the company, I feel, again, speaking daily with a software asset manager, they've been working back in days with procurement, legal, and sometimes obviously the IT teams. And now they're working more and more with the CISO, with the, like obviously CIO, procurement, finance, with everyone, even the business teams. So it's a very central role, and they're going to have to touch to the security piece because security is everywhere now. So yes, that's really important.
Yeah, 100%. The software asset manager to survive needs to be able to cross those divides and in fact bring those skills as part of their own to provide value. That's for sure.
And it's really complex. Like, can you think about it? You need to manage all the topics at once. Like if we say ITAM, software asset manager, and then SaaS management being part of it, most of the asset manager will actually do ITAM, I think, in the future. So they will do everything, hardware, software, SaaS, everything. You need to know everything. You need to be very precise because it's really difficult, and you have big shark sales in front of you if you need to negotiate something. And there's AI coming in the game and changing a lot of things as well. There's very old tools. I would say we have some competitors that have been there for a while that unfortunately haven't been able to use the really new technologies, at least not yet, while we have been created Sonar on those technologies. So we see there's a gap as well in that aspect of having AI within your tool to be quicker, faster, and more precise.
And then, as you mentioned, it is being developed according to the real life feedback that you're having from those on the ground. We and I spoke a little bit about the challenges that 75% of SaaS companies are going to increase their rates. How does your solution tackle that challenge of the increase?
Yeah, it's crazy, right? That number is really crazy. 75% of companies are increasing their price. And some of those, the biggest ones, by more than 30%. Just naming some of those, obviously, the Salesforce, the VMware with Broadcom trying to do some big things as well. It's crazy when you think about it, but it's difficult for those companies. So they're just increasing the price, saying, okay, we'll increase the revenue just by increasing the price. And that's it.
They know people are locked in.
Yeah, exactly. And talking with a lot of CIOs, I think they're ready. They know it's going to happen, but and they're really ready to pay more, especially for some softwares, because as you said, you're locked in. There's nothing you can do, almost. So how do we help? Basically, by having that full map of all the softwares you're using, you're able to decrease the waste, the unused apps that you have. So if you see, I don't know, let's say all your employees are using just 3 times per month a productivity tool that you're supposed to use every day. You're going to talk with them. You're going to understand. You're going to probably change the tool or just delete the tool. You're going to understand, okay, what in your process, in your day-to-day process, is it duplicate work? Is it something on top of it? Does it ask you for more work than you can actually provide? Is it the UX of the tool that is not good? Like kind of going deeper and deeper. And that's why we're working with partners as well, to be able to do that work, because we're doing the first phase of getting the insights. Once you have the insight, you need to dig deeper to understand the problem and then be able to change things. So yeah, definitely on that, with all those tools, trying to increase, I think we can help a lot by providing you data in order to renegotiate your contracts, basically.
Perfect. What do you think is the biggest challenge in the industry today for the consumers?
I think it's security. We're in a very particular period. I think security, not only for the big players, now for everyone. I think the big players were really the one targeted by security and hack and everything before. And now SMBs are also part of that. So I think everyone needs to pay attention to it. And more than security, like having a software of security, I think we need to come back to that human side of things. You need to talk with your employees. It's not just sending them a training, and once they've done a training, by just clicking next, they've been approved security, so you're all good. It's more like talking, understanding how they use, and also teaching them like the risks. Like when I was working at Google, I had no idea of the risks by using X, Y, Z, right? It's crazy when you think about it. You should be trained. You should understand that if you do that, not only it's a problem for you, but it's a problem for your whole company, right? If you're connecting on public Wi-Fi, if you're letting your computer open on Starbucks and you're going to the toilets, those are big security problems. And using softwares that are not approved by IT, it's also a potential problem, right? AI right now, we were saying it's coming really, really big. You need to adopt AI, but you need to be careful with it, with the information you're giving it. So that's why I think the working on that silo between IT and the business teams is going to be really, really important. They need to come back together and work as once. And that's why I think that's our mission, right? That's what we believe in. We definitely want to provide the tools on one side for IT to see everything, because it provides a lot of innovation, having people using new tools as well, but we need to control that. And on the other side of it, with the business teams, they will need agility, they will need velocity, and we need to provide those kind of tools for them. And that's the next phase of Sonar Clarity, providing them with an app catalog that would just increase the velocity of buying new softwares, of getting new licenses, etc. And giving the feedback, obviously, about what you do and what you use on a day-to-day basis.
Fantastic. And the next question was going to be, I mean, what's the key differences between the emerging and the established solutions in the market? You have kind of already alluded there that perhaps the AI, as you mentioned earlier in the podcast, but I mean, is there anything else that might differentiate the emerging solutions like yourself?
Yeah, there is. Technology is one part for sure, but not only. One of the main thing, it's kind of a feeling as well. When talking with really big enterprise companies, they like the fact that we're a 20 minutes implementation solution, that it's very light in terms of intrusivity and everything. And it feels it's a really big difference compared to the big players, where you need to, first, it's very expensive because you need to buy the full suite, full ITAM suite and everything. In here, it's very light, very easy, agile. So I feel there's kind of a gap as well on that aspect.
Uninvasive, 20 minutes to save 3 million.
Right? Isn't it crazy? That should be my pitch. We actually have good technology, but I'm a bad communicator. I need to do that.
No problem. You can have that one. As far as obviously Sonar Clarity, it's only been around for 2 years. So I appreciate sort of you are still learning and developing on your journey. But I guess over the last few years, I mean, what's the kind of the main things that you've learned?
I think that's going to be something the big players, at least those that are here from a long time, probably knew before. But I discovered that, as you said, by going through the first years of building that technology. And I would come back to the human side of it. I think the cross-functional work is something I had kind of underestimated. I was talking a lot with CIOs at first. Then I discovered the CISO might use actually Sonar in a different way. And then the software asset manager as well, and the procurement and the DPO might be using it as well. So there's a lot of people internally that might be interested in using our solution that they need to talk, and that's not always the case. So something I would say learn is we need to improve that aspect and help companies talk better on those challenges for them to use our tool better, obviously, and then get more value out of it.
And so would you say that's kind of the biggest challenge for products like yourselves today, the newer entrants coming into the market, then is to get people talking and to get your products through the door?
Yeah, no, I think that's the biggest challenges we have, to be honest. Because once you see the tool, once you test the tool, you can have an idea by yourself. But you need to more than evangelizing the SaaS management piece, evangelizing yourself and talking about your company. And as I said, I was telling it as a joke, but that's really the case. I think we're really good we've been focusing a lot on the technology, but we need to get it out there now and talk more about us. And I don't think we're really, really good at communicating about us right now, compared to other actors in the market. So yes, I think that will be our biggest challenges as a newcomer into the category.
Sure. I mean, guess as far as kind of the shifts in terms of the industry, what do you foresee?
Yeah, I don't want to kind of repeat, especially what people knows already about switching from on-prem to cloud or those kind of things. So what I think will definitely change most industries anyway is artificial intelligence, right? We've been talking a little bit about it, but I think it's going to be huge in terms of software asset management. And why that? Because they're dealing with tons, like billions of points of data that needs to be worked logically, and you need to get insights out of those billions point of data. And that's really something AI can help with. There's also, again, and I think in all industries, when talking about AI, you need to talk about security as well. And when we started, like a few years ago, talking about customers, about how we use AI in Sonar Clarity, we saw different things. First, wow, it's great. In terms of productivity, it's actually great. You can match a lot of things. You can find duplicates quicker than anyone else. But on the other side of it, we were, okay, we can basically take your contracts, read your contracts, tell you what's not going well. And we actually didn't build anything on that aspect, to be 100% transparent, because the feedback was, if you take my contracts and you read all the contracts, yes, you will be able for me to read just one request, like tell me all the contracts I have with this and this in the terms and conditions. That would be great, isn't it, for legal teams? Whatever the language of the contract, which is crazy. But it means if you're doing this, the data that you will store will go on a US cloud server. So it will be accessible potentially in the US. And when you work on the French market or German market, this is a huge issue. So instead of tackling that problem, because it's not a big ask we have, we're kind of putting it on pause yet. And we're probably going to build that on a sovereign cloud when possible.
Okay, brilliant. So that's kind of something we can expect from your product potentially released in the future.
Not yet.
Yeah, potentially.
Not yet. I think AI will help us do a lot of things before we do that contract part. We are really using it to gain a lot of time in terms of matching and everything. It's a lot of work. Actually, when starting working with AI, when you see ChatGPT, you're seeing simplicity, right? When you use AI into your product, you need to think about all the potential cases. And AI, especially LLM, can change their mind. You can say, I don't know, you can ask what's the category of Asana. Sometimes they will tell you it's project management. Sometimes they will tell you it's work management, or another time it's task management, right? So it's just an example. But so you need to be really, really clear in, let's say, kind of the prompt you're giving to your AI and the way you're building your product to be super accurate. If you don't, then AI will kind of destroy and give bad insights, and it's really, really dangerous as well, right?
So on that note, then, I mean, as far as the prompts, do you have some stock prompts that would release certain information? I appreciate every environment's different and it does change, but do you have some stock prompts in the tool that you would you advise people to use, or that they're already stored there that they just click on?
So there's no prompt you can use. I mean, there's nothing right now. We're not using AI to be the interface with the customer, right? We're using AI in the background to treat data and categorize and manage a lot of different things and be quicker and more precise again on what we're doing. But we're not putting it in the platform yet. That might be the future, definitely. But we're still thinking about, as I said at the beginning, we need to provide a lot of value. And right now, we don't see a lot of value coming out of that. So we don't want to have a very complex UX or UI just for the customer to be, all right, I can actually use a new prompt and do this. And instead of that, I can do that, etc. So it will come in the future, but we wanted to make it simple. So yeah, no, nothing to provide in terms of a prompt like that.
Prompts are very focused, and they work because you've designed them to work, and obviously,
and we've tried it so many times with so many cases. Cool. Yes, definitely.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
It's been quite a hard work, and if my CTO is hearing me, he will think about those beautiful days.
Yeah. Well, I say no more. To keep in line with the takeaways that I like to provide my network on LinkedIn, and also now the lessons on this podcast. And do you have a hack, a trick, a success story from using your product that we can share that will provide some value to our listeners?
I think there's There's something that might be really interesting. It's not a hack, but it's something we've been using on very particular cases, right? So we have, just to come back to the beginning, we have 5 different sources of data we're connecting to in order to be able to provide those kind of insights we were talking about. We have created actually a 6th source of data that is kind of the hidden one. Why? Because it looks very intrusive from the external standpoint. So we don't want to communicate about that, even though it's not. And I'll explain why. Basically, it's a connection to the Google Marketplace and the Microsoft Marketplace that allows companies doing M&A or carve-outs to get full picture, like a really, really good picture on the shadow IT in just one shot. So you don't have to wait until the extension is collecting data and providing you with new softwares people are using. You can get it really, really fast. When you have like a week to do the work, for example, you can plug just the IDP and these, and you'll get the kind of a full list of softwares like that, because it's using retroactive data that we can get from emails. To do that, we're checking out objects and expeditor email. Obviously, we're not checking, we don't have the data, right? It's done on the local machine. It's matched with our database. And if, Sean, you have received an email from Atlassian 4 months ago saying, hey, congratulations for the creation of your Trello account, or that you have received an invoice, we know there's shadow IT there, right? Because we know that you're using Trello, even though you haven't connected to SSO, so IT doesn't know. Maybe you have expenses your own Trello account. We know that because you have received an invoice and you're receiving one every month. So it's going really fast. So it's kind of a hack, but it's not really a hack. You'll tell me if it's good.
Hey, well, Tanguy, thanks so much. That was really good. I mean, before we leave though, got to tell the listeners really what your favorite takeaway actually is. What do you order? Things are a little bit busy. You just want something quick.
I'm a big fan of pizza, like a huge fan, but not like any fan of pizza. I'm really picky, right? I'm a big fan of Napolitan pizza, and probably the best restaurant, if you haven't tried it, is Sorbio. So I think it's one of the creator of the pizza in Napoli. If you haven't been there, you should, just for the pizza. It's worth it. But I think they have Sorbio everywhere now.
It's the pizza pilgrimage.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. No, go ahead. Really, they're really, really good. So yeah, no, basically pizza. I'm trying to not eat pizza all the time, but yeah, it's difficult because I love it. I love it.
Perfect. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, and really appreciate this. And yeah, that's the end to the Off Menu podcast. Thanks for participation.
Thanks a lot. It was a pleasure being with you today. And yeah, let's do this in 1 year to see how it has evolved. Right?
Yeah. Deal. All right. Hopefully I'll have that pizza
good
one
one
as well.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, we reached the end, and I really hope you enjoyed that. And if you want any further information about our guests, then their LinkedIn profile and contact information can be found in the episode notes. I do have one more section, which is a request for your involvement. I created this following multiple members of our community suggesting I should do this. And so this is a community-driven platform that is curated to help you. So if you know of any alternative solutions within our industry or related to the ITAM industry, then I want to hear from you. Help me to interview those that you want to learn about. And finally, if there is any feedback, it's welcomed. I want you to help me to improve this podcast. The better this gets, the better the information you'll receive. So help me to ask the questions that are relevant to you so you get the right answers. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And again, please share with your colleagues and industry peers if you feel it's relevant. Thank you.